What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode number 127 of Park to Prem here with Town or Town. Today, folks, we have the end of the season live. 2 games left for your viewing pleasure. We are also going to wrap up the kind of end of season review after the last game. It may not be as comprehensive as previous episodes because, well, I just want to get through the end of this season a little bit sharpish. I feel like this season has been quite a long one. I've done a lot of live comms, and I'm sure that you guys are as keen as I am to get into the summer and to hopefully be able to spend some of this money that is just sat in the bank account. So anyway, since you were last here, of course, we played Villarreal last episode. It wasn't the most memorable of episodes, I suppose, for the right reasons, but the good news is we have bounced back well in the league, and well, despite the fact we have not kept a clean sheet in what is almost 2 months, we had some really impressive performances. The first of these was against Bournemouth, where Marlon Ox, the left-back, he got us off to a flyer. It's like he heard me at the end of last episode talking about planning to replace him. Immediately within 4 minutes decided, maybe I should perform. Not long after that, Giacomo Palazzolo got a goal for us, and he's been in some really fine goal-scoring form. So it was 2-0 after 7 minutes. Jimmy Marshall for them then did pick us back, and 2-1 is how it remained until right at the end, where Palazzolo grabbed another. A good little brace for him. Unfortunately, Shvetsov has had a concussion and has been out for the last 3 weeks. That has paved the way for both Palazzolo and Charlie Brown to get a bit of game time. And in this match, Palazzolo showed us what he was all about. The next game we had, perhaps the most difficult game when you were to look at our end-of-season run-in. Away from home against Tottenham, but a really convincing performance. Made even more impressive by the fact we had to fight back from behind. Yes, early on in this game, Perry Cannell at the back post for them tucked it away, and you kind of wonder, oh my word, is it just going to be one of those games? Well, I'll tell you what, it absolutely wasn't. We got our noses back into the game just 2 minutes later. Soretta finally heading on target. Yes, the amount of efforts this man heads over the crossbar from set pieces is a number that I can't count to, but he did hit the target on this occasion, and 1-1 after 4 minutes made you think that maybe something special was going to happen, and well, another set piece came our way. Andrew Eric with it, lurking at the back post after Charlie Brown nodded it on towards him. And right before half-time, it was 3-1, courtesy of another Andy Eric goal. He has made a bit of a difference since he joined us, of course, way back in January. Got a goal before half-time. Not long after that, great to see Charlie Brown get on the score sheet. And 4-1 is how it finished. Another really impressive display. And well, 4-1 is a result that we kind of like, and it's a result that we managed to rustle up in our next game against Everton. This game we actually went 4-0 up in, and, well, Giacomo Palazzolo with a hat-trick in this game. He now has 5 goals in the last 3 league games we have played in. He's only got 10 all season, so suddenly he's doubled his goal tally. Some really tidy finishes in here, some really nice play too. It was 2-0 at the break, and then Jackie Auger, the ogre, at centre-back, managed to get in and get a goal. He's actually got a fair few, the French centre-back this year. That was his 7th league goal of the season, which I feel like for a centre-back is pretty impressive. Later on in the game, Palazzolo completed his hat-trick, a superb first touch before tucking it in at the near post. They got a consolation, but a consolation is all it was. And what a start to the month of May that was. With 2 games left, this is how the league looks. Now, I don't want to get too excited just yet, but we are in a title race, technically. Chelsea do have a game in hand. They currently sit top of the league, but you can see Man City and Liverpool sat around us. You can see the teams, well, around us. They've not had the best of form. Manchester United, who I felt like we were going to be battling it out against for a top 4 finish, they have well and truly collapsed. You can see they lost to Chelsea in the Champions League. They drew against Crystal Palace, who we have today. They lost against Bournemouth. They also drew against Derby. I mean, what an awful month of April it was for them, actually, when you look at it. Really did not go to plan. And as a result of that, we are all but guaranteed a top 4 finish this year. And really, it's about where can we finish? Can we get an even better finish than 4th? If we just look at the rules for this competition, the prize money difference is not insignificant between all the different positions. You know, if we could finish 2nd over 3rd, that's £2.5 million. That's pretty big money for a team like us. I know we have plenty of money in the bank, but make no mistake, I want to be finishing as high as we can. As I said, there is an outside chance of the title. Chelsea currently sit 2 points ahead of us. They have got a game in hand, however. Worth noting that they are still in the Champions League, and they have got to play a mid-week game. So their fixture congestion to end this year is not inconsequential. Their recent form, if we just look at it, they lost against Manchester United in the Champions League second leg, so maybe they're vulnerable, but they have beaten Burnley 3-0, they've beaten Liverpool 5-0, which has really opened up an opportunity for us to leapfrog Liverpool, who, much like Manchester United, not having the end of season running, I'm assuming that they were predicting. They lost against Sheffield United, they lost 5-0, as I mentioned already, against Chelsea, a 0-0 draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers, really not good enough for them. And those results have let us in. Meanwhile, the reigning champions, the fourth horse in this race, Zidane's Manchester City, their form's been largely solid. They did have one recent slip-up, that was against Arsenal. They did also lose against Chelsea, and their end-of-season run-in is packed, but it should be relatively simple for them. They've got the FA Cup semi-final, they've got a Champions League final as well. So much like Chelsea, both Man City and Chelsea are going to just have these midweek games to contend with. We're not so busy. We just have 2 matches to worry about. And if we can do well in both of those, we'll see ultimately where we finish. If you look at the home screen here, you can see we have the second highest number of goals scored in the league, the 6th best defence. We have one of the worst records of red cards and the worst average attendance, although we do sell out each and every week. I do hope that eventually we will be able to get a new stadium built because we are already at maximum capacity for our current ground, which is a bit of a shame really because I think it's only 4 years old at this point. Maybe a little bit of a lack of future-proofing when we came to planning our stadium there, you could argue. In terms of the team, this is the team that I played most recently. I have made a critical change, everyone. I have swapped our box-to-box midfielders for Mazzalas. And the reason for doing this is, unlike box-to-box midfielders, Mazzalas will defend higher up the pitch, which can be useful when we want to press high. Particularly with this system, we already have 5 men behind them, so I'm willing for them to do their defending a little higher up the pitch. And also, as Mazzalas, they really like to run into the channels. Instead of making these really straight vertical runs up the field, they will look to underlap with the complete wing-backs. They will look to move off the advanced playmaker. And I think that has been one of the key reasons for our surge in goals as of late. Now, you can see here, Shvetsov, if we just have a quick look, he is just about fit, which is good news, I suppose. However, given Palazzolo's recent form, I am going to stick with him up top today. Shvetsov coming in with a little bit of a lack of match fitness. You can see here, Palazzolo's recent performance is very, very impressive stuff. 5 goals in his last 2 games. Considering we signed him for 13.75 million... He's pretty blooming good, isn't he? He's pretty blooming good. Even if he is one of our higher earning players, he has shown in just the last month what he is all about. And you know what? With Shvetsov not 100% match fit, we're going to keep our faith in him. Elsewhere in the team, you'll notice here McCassie is out injured. He has fractured his lower leg. That is a bad injury. That's not good. I don't think you need me to tell you that. But it has opened up an opportunity for Maticevic to come in and play as a Mazzala for us. You can see, as far as Mazzalas go, he's pretty blooming good. And it does make use of his flair, which I know is something that you guys are always very keen for me to make more of with this guy. Really, really like what Maticevic offers as a Mazzala. And alongside him, of course, we've got Andre, who equally, as far as Mazzalas go, very, very, very blooming good. It's probably the fairest way to describe our midfield. I feel like actually Andre, I know it gets joked about a lot. I do actually think he might be the best player in our team right now. His leadership has now gone up to 11, which means his only attributes that are below 11 are corners, free kick taking and long throws. So if only he was a set piece specialist, he would probably be the perfect player. But in terms of your all-rounded box-to-box midfielders, he is superb. And the big thing is, he's no longer considered inconsistent. He has had an improvement to his consistency, which is difficult to get out of players. Generally speaking, you won't have a player go from inconsistent to consistent. The fact that we've managed to get Andre from being inconsistent just to being not consistent is good. Obviously, he's played so much football for us over the last few years, and that's definitely been a big factor behind that. But anyway, in terms of team news, besides McCassie's injury and Shvetsov coming back, we are just about at full strength. I have been giving Thiago Useless a little bit of game time. He's not wowed me when he's played, but in his 3 starts, he's done fine. He's not been sent off, and he has shown some really good improvements in training. Another player who I definitely need to talk about in terms of improvements is Kevin Kaiser, the Dutchman who joined us for just £2 million in January after we pre-agreed a contract with him. Obviously, we need to teach him to play the defensive midfielder position because that is where he will play for us as a deep line playmaker. But just looking at him, as far as deep line playmakers go, what an incredible player this guy is. Only 19 years old as well. He has improved quite a fair bit if we just look at it, considering he's been here 6 months. Some good improvement on the whole. Hopefully that is a sign of things to come in the kind of coming years. I feel like he might have Soretta syndrome. I have now created a thing called Soretta syndrome. Don't question it, but I feel like when you look at Soretta and how much Soretta has improved, he deserves to have something named after him. He's been at the club 2 years. What an insane improvement by this guy. I really wish his technique was just a tiny little bit better. If it was, I would be really, really tempted to, get him with some more player-preferred moves, with kind of picking out ambitious passes from the back and switching play. Technique is a really important attribute, especially partnered with stuff like passing, for example. So whilst he has got great passing and great vision, that needs to get to 12, and I'll be happy. As a result, you can see we're training him actually in defensive positioning at the moment. I have been alternating between defensive positioning and ball control. The issue with ball control is it improves both dribbling and first touch. Now, first touch is fine, but I don't really need a centre-back who can dribble. But, I mean, he's just so well-rounded, isn't he? If he can become like Andre and become not inconsistent, that would be fantastic for us. But anyway, let's get into the first game of today, and you will notice the fact it is the 8th, no it's not, it's the 7th. It's 8 AM though, and the reason for doing that is Chelsea and a few of the teams around us are playing earlier than us today, so rather than have the anticlimactic thing where I come back and go, here's the results that happened an hour ago, I thought we'd just watch the matchday results happen. So the big games to keep an eye on: Manchester United against Everton. If United drop points, we are guaranteed a top 4 finish. You can see here Liverpool have Tottenham, Man City take on Brighton. So we are looking at Brighton and Sheffield United to do us favours. Now I'm hoping both Man City and Chelsea are going to be a little bit tired with fixture congestion. Can some results go our way? Or am I going to have to immediately wave goodbye to any hopes of a title? We confirm our best ever league finish. That's good. With 2 matches left to play, I guess they just screwed up. And when I say they, I mean Manchester United. Let's have a look. Manchester United lost 3-2. Chelsea drew. Man City did win. That draw for Chelsea is an awful, awful result that opens up a door of hope, everyone. The door of hope is open. Can we take a step into it? A win here, we go even on points with Manchester City with 1 game left. And well, you can see here, Chelsea, they're still in pole position, but if they're going to draw against Sheffield United, who's to say they can't slip up in their other games? We could have a 3-way tie going into the last game of the year. We've also got Liverpool to play. If we could win this game and Tottenham could beat Liverpool, top 3 would be guaranteed. Anyway, I've already talked about our team selection, so we can hop straight into this. Some good results going in our favour. It would be very, very me now to just not capitalise on those at all and to, slip up in this game. Anyway, Crystal Palace in this save game, not a bad team at all. They have 1 player who I'm very, very excited about, both as England manager and as someone looking towards the summer at cheap players we may be able to pick up. I mean, let's have a quick look at him. Why not? What home button do you want to work? I'll keep doing team talks. I've hit the home button and nothing's happened. Let's go to kickoff. Right, if I just pause here, please. Thank you. The minor tangent, but this match isn't important. Crystal Palace have this insane youngster, Steve Norman. I really like Steve. The issue is they want £130 million. Would you pay £60 million for this guy? 19 years old, English striker, not playing for one of the big teams. Definitely signable. Not had the best of seasons, but he just screams potential and screams like he's going to be one of those players who, if I don't sign, could haunt me for the next decade playing for Manchester United. I'm sure you're all familiar with that kind of player. But anyway, away from home, let's not worry about wonder kids and summer signings and how we're going to blow £60 million on a player to sit on the bench. Let's look at this game here, shall we? And well, Crystal Palace, first highlight of the game is them having a throw in our half. Brufton, his effort is blocked, goes back to Musa. Can we win the ball off them here? Leskinen doesn't put in a tackle. Troy Parrott, now Pittman, our former player, you might remember, the left back. Ball whipped in. Auger heads it out only as far as Brufton, and well, that's not what we needed in the script. Rogan Brufton gets a goal, and Palace are 1 up. I mean, we've not kept a clean sheet in almost 2 months, so I wouldn't be lying if I was to tell you I'm not entirely surprised. OJ heads it out. Brufton hits it. Morrigan decides he's going to do a bit of praying on his knees, as if divine intervention is going to stop the ball going into the back of the net. Unfortunately, it's not, but we do have a corner immediately. Turnbull near post. I think OJ actually almost got a touch to help it on its way. Unfortunately, it was saved, and now we have a set piece to deal with of our own. As it falls to Crystal Palace, the ball is pinging around in our area. Just get it out, lads. You know what? It's only half an hour, but I think we all know what time it is. Matasevic is nervous. He doesn't like it when I shout, bless him. He's a bit noise sensitive, is that boy. Everyone else reacted well. The sad thing is, despite everyone reacting well, the first half ends and it's 1-0 with no further highlights. It is not a classic so far. Matasevic is not at the best of games, so you know what? I am going to bring in Volta to play at right centre mid. I'm going to make the early change. Palazzolo's not had a good game either, so Shvetsov, you know what? I'm sorry, Andre, that I didn't play you sooner. I should have brought you on right away, and for that I have to apologise. Anyway, Leskinen, set piece. Let's see if we can turn around our fortunes. Turnbull near post, hits the woodwork. Can someone get it in the back of the net? What is happening? Andy Eric's lunging at it like a snake. Unfortunately, the ball is not going across the line. Villa in goal for them is going to hold on to it. A bit of a mad scramble in their box is the closest we've come. Can we do something better this time? Mateus Aurelio, he's winding up for a long throw. He launches it. Shvetsov near post, heads it. It hits the woodwork. Someone get it over the line. Back-to-back goal line scrambles, but we just can't quite find a way through. And time is... I don't want to say time is slipping away here, but time is slipping away here. There is no way around it. It is still 1-0 Palace. We have had, by far and away, the better of the chances in this game, but we are not taking them when we really need to. Well, Volta wins it, fresh off the bench. Look at him go. He's quick. He's fast. He picks out a pass. Turnbull, Dylan, this is your moment. He's missed another one-on-one. It's worth noting that with Dylan Turnbull's 13 finishing, you know, it's always going to be a little bit of a problem. I have now, finally, after years of umming and ahhing about it, decided that I am going to give him the player-preferred move, and we are training him in taking the ball around the goalkeeper. I'm hoping that will solve his one-on-one woes. Anyway, ball whipped in. Soretta near post heads it over. I mean, we've heard that before, haven't we? My word, we are knocking on the door. The door is being knocked on. I was about to change our team from positive to attacking. I actually don't like that change with our system, but what I am going to do is I'm going to tell the complete wing-backs to get further forward. Volta get higher up the pitch. And you know what? Charlie Brown for Turnbull. Come on, Charlie. Show us what you're made of. I can see it now. Charlie Brown near post header from a corner. We've got 6 minutes to try and make something happen. I have now got to go and attack. And there's 2 minutes left. Nothing is happening. We have bottled it, everyone. I meing, it's not even like we were the worst team. We deserve to win that. We deserve to win it. Well, I think that is our title hopes gone, because I think the goal swing required is pretty monumental. Apparently we were unlucky in defeat. That doesn't make me feel any better, Football Manager. Let's just have a quick look. We're a little bit out of it. I mean, right now we need to just try and target finishing top 3. I suppose. If Liverpool could lose against Tottenham, that would help me out. Our last game of the season, by the way, is against Norwich, a team that we've traditionally had a field day against. And while Tottenham aren't going to do us any favours, we do now slip down to 4th, which oddly enough, if you told me that a month and a half ago, I would have been delighted with 4th. But having now known that going into the last day of the season, we could have been in with a shot of the title, it doesn't really feel that great anymore, does it? A top 4 finish. We should almost guaranteed. Well, we should almost be guaranteed Champions League football now, which is good. I'm a little bit surprised our budgets haven't been set for the season, but I think that might come down to the fact that that we could theoretically win the league on points, even though the game doesn't really account for goal difference. Our goal difference is so far behind Chelsea and Manchester City's that we're not going to win the league here. I hate to break your heart and burst your bubble. The best news really for us now would actually be if Chelsea were to win on Wednesday, because then the game would go, hey, they can't finish top anymore. Here's your budgets for the year. But the good news is we are pretty much guaranteed Champions League football at this point. Which, if you told me that at the start of the year, I mean, I would have been very happy about that. That's the bizarre way that this is all kind of panned out this season, I suppose. But anyway, we're just going to mash continue forward here to the Norwich game. As I said, rather than do our traditional end-of-season live com, just going through everything. I'm going to just tack it on to the end of this video. I have been looking at the analytics and stuff for those videos. Generally speaking, not many people, well, it's not that not many people watch them, but far fewer people watch them than, I anticipated might. I thought, it might be a useful way for people to binge watch and catch up, but what I've realised is most people just watch all the episodes anyway, or, jump in and out when they can. They don't, just watch the end of season live comms to catch up quickly. So, considering the extra effort that goes into them, it feels like not a wasted effort, but I'd rather just, do it in this video rather than make it its own thing. Especially because I am conscious of the fact that, the last few seasons, we have done more episodes during the seasons, which naturally means that, seasons last over a week. Now, to be honest, that kind of suits me because it means I don't have to play through a season every week, which is quite challenging to do. Chelsea win 1-0, so that might mean our budgets get set here. Yeah, in some ways, it suits me having more episodes a season because it means I don't play through the game as quickly, so I can take my time a little bit more. However, equally, and I know this from experience, on YouTube, especially with Football Manager series, people like to see seasons whizzed through. That's not to say you rush through the commentaries themselves, but if you can keep things constantly moving forward and keep that constant momentum, it definitely helps out. Anyway, Andre's got interest from a load of different clubs. Can they all bugger off, please? Why does everyone want Andre? Last time I checked, he wasn't interested in discussing a new contract. He's still not. I'm hoping once we know that we're in the Champions League, which we should be. I don't know why it's not confirmed yet, but once we know that we are, hopefully he goes, oh, actually, Towler are a big club after all. Right, let's just, keep doing our thing here at Towler rather than looking to jump ship. Because it does upset me a little bit when players just jump ship because they think you're not good enough. Anyway, you can see our transfer spend this year is only £21 million. I say that. I realise if you don't manage in the Premier League in Football Manager, that seems like the most absurd amount of money ever. That is the seventh lowest amount spent. You can see Newcastle United spent £101 million. And if I'm not mistaken, they're in the relegation zone. They are. If they had a tycoon takeover, because that's a silly amount of money. They haven't. They just decided to spend a load of money. Their media prediction was 14th. They spent... How much did they spend? 125 million, including 27 million on this guy. Well, they deserve to be relegated. That's all there is to say on that. There's no point in even trying to analyse anything beyond that. Anyway, this is your daily reminder. Auto saves. If you don't know, you can go to your Football Manager preferences and just turn on auto saves, or at least keep a backup somewhere else on your PC. There is nothing more heartbreaking than getting 10 years into a save game and then you get the dreaded save game is not loading. I actually had an experience just yesterday where I went to load up the save game for the series and it wasn't loading because the save file, for whatever reason, had corrupted when it was being saved. When you're this far into a save game, it's, not a small size, 100 megabytes. Occasionally that kind of data will just get corrupted when it's being written to your hard disk. And so it's just always worth keeping a backup. And I did, and it was only 3 days behind the point at which the save that had gone bang. So, yeah, auto saves. That's all there is to say on it. Anyway, you can see Leskinen having his praises sung. I mean, of course he should be having his praises sung. What a player Jarno Leskinen has turned out to be. Signed for £22 million, was not given a chance in the Bundesliga by Hamburg. Last year, of course, he played box-to-box midfielder. This year, we converted him. We said, you know what, Jarno, you're going to learn to be a deep-line playmaker and we'll see how you get on. And you know how he got on? Very blooming well. He would be my player of the season, I think, without a doubt. It's weird because I think in past seasons we've always had one insane goal scorer who we would look at and go, player of the season. He wants a new Do you really want a new contract? No, you don't. Excellent. Correct answer, Jarno. But no, in past years we'd look at, one or two strikers as carrying the team. I now feel like Leskinen is doing that for us. It's worth noting, whilst our strikers aren't getting, a crazy total number of goals, to any one individual, the actual number of goals we are scoring in the team is pretty well spread. Which is nice to be able to say. Also, O'Shea has 7 goals from centre-back. That's an insane number. There's some Premier League greats when it comes to centre-backs who have scored that kind of number of goals as a centre-back. He's just a bit of a weapon from set pieces, is the Frenchman. Anyway, Chelsea are out to clinch the title. If we just look at how things are looking, they have the title clinched unless there is a 19-goal swing. So congratulations to Frank Lampard's Chelsea. In terms of what our aspirations are here, let's get a win against Norwich. Let's hope that Liverpool slip up. And let's end the season in style. A top 3 finish is good. It's not like there's a bronze medal like in other sports. But top 3 just sounds slightly more prestigious than a top 4 finish. Although, you know, last year we finished 5th. This year, even if we were to finish 4th, it's a pretty good sign of progression. Especially when you consider that we were also playing in a European competition this year for the first time ever. Anyway, I am going to bring in Shvetsov. I am going to keep Dylan Turnbull on the pitch, even if he has let me out down throughout this season. I just wonder if there's any other changes I want to do. I don't think there is. I feel pretty content with our starting 11 on the whole. Strikers haven't been doing particularly well. Let's just have a little word of Shvetsov. Criticise recent form. Come on, Andre. You can do better than what you've been doing. Watch him bang in a hat-trick now against Norwich. He scored the fastest ever Premier League hat-trick. And the only ever Premier League double hat-trick against Norwich. When I say only ever, I mean ever in history. It's never happened before in real life, and it's not happened in this save game besides the one time where Shvetsov scored 6 against this team. So if there's any game where he's going to come and, you know, turn things around, albeit a little late into the year, it's probably this match here. Anyway, Goodwin, who is an England international at fullback, not under my leadership, I've dropped him from the national team, is right back for them. We'll have to be a little wary of him. By the way, next episode, tomorrow's episode, is going to be England, and it's going to be some World Cup qualifying goodness. So I want to talk a little bit about what's happened over the last 9 months that we've been England manager, talk about our World Cup campaign, which has got off to a very good start. And, well, maybe we'll see Sonny Best and Dylan Turnbull making some appearances and hopefully scoring some one-on-ones. Dylan, what are you doing? I talked about how we've got Dylan Turnbull, who is learning the player-preferred move to take it round the goalkeeper. In previous football managers, I have found that player-preferred move pretty blooming useless. So, desperate times have called for desperate measures. That is why I've not done it sooner with Turnbull. Just generally speaking, from my own experience, I've never had a great deal of success with it. However, the wick of my temper to do with the patience of Dylan Turnbull has worn so thin, I feel like it's worth changing. Well, here's Shvetsov. I mean, I just had to shout at him. I just had to shout at him and warn him. 22nd goal of the year. What a tidy finish. Leskinen, I mean, who else was it going to be, with the assist, and we celebrate in front of the gazebo. Look at it. Shvetsov, burst of pace down this left-hand side, just takes it round his man. Zarate cannot keep up. And into the bottom corner it goes. Where was that against Crystal Palace, eh? We had a few of those mad goal line scrambles against Crystal Palace. We didn't have any moments of magic like that, did we? Anyway, I could just have the latest scores up. We are going to only really be caring about Liverpool, who are taking on Aston Villa. In truth, I'm not really expecting them to slip up. As Dylan Turnbull's through, I mean, now he scored. I mean, what's happened? It's like we're a different team against Norwich. You know how Bulls get, like, angry at the colour red? It's like we get angry at the colour yellow. Canary yellow is just, it flicks off a switch in our mind. We get angry, we get mean. It's actually a pretty good finish as well, even if the goalkeeper was a little questionable. I mean, could we get the goal difference swing that we need to surpass Man City? I don't think so, unfortunately. But hey, it's nice to have a positive end to the season, I suppose. As the ball's whipped in, Auger has just hit the woodwork. I mean, that is why he's got 7 goals this year. He's just very, very good in the box. Mateus Aurelio probably going to wind up for a long throw. Of course he is. I say that like there's a question to be asked. Although he's faked us all out. He's gone to Andy Eric, who whips it in. Turnbull's there. That has bounced on the crossbar repeatedly. And it's hit it twice. But it has gone over. Knocking on the door. This could have been a fair few more already, couldn't it? Getting a bit of deja vu. Will he go long this time, Mateus Aurelio, or is he going to fake us all out again? He launches it Shvetsov's way. Andy Eric's there. Now back with Aurelio, the right back. Burns past his man. Is he going to have a go? Of course he is. The keeper, though, turns it round the post. A good little chance for us there. Liverpool, by the way, still 0-0 in their game. What would happen if it stayed 0-0? They'd be ahead of us on goal difference. Right, goal difference could matter. Goal difference could matter. I believe we would only need 2 more goals because of goals for. So we need to win 4-0 and Liverpool draw, and that would be enough for us. Mateus Aurelio, can you get the ball into the mixer? Can he get it in there? He can. Shvetsov has to run a little bit to keep it alive, but he will keep it alive. Now with Marlon Ox to Eric. I mean, what a lovely little goal. Andy Eric, 7 goals for him from centre attacking mid in the second half this season. Manchester United losing against Wolverhampton Wanderers, by the way, so their poor end to the season does continue. Shvetsov keeping it alive, plays it inside to Marlon Ox. What a lovely little ball, by the way, to Andy Eric there, who then just places it into that bottom corner. And 3-0 it is. What a lovely, lovely performance this has been. Of course, we do need, I believe, 1 more goal for goal difference to help us. And well, we need to be good at the back as they have a set-piece chance here. Reyes heads over. And Alexander-Arnold has scored for Liverpool. So ignore everything I've just said about possible goal difference swings. I mean, I guess Villa could still score and draw in the second half. I've just told the players I'm not happy. That was a misclick, but we've saved it, everyone. Panic over. I have high expectations of our boys. Matasevic hasn't had the best of games again. You know what? Let's bring in Mr. Useless for his live com debut. I don't think he's made a live com debut before. If he has, I will apologise now. I don't remember it. Marlon Ox whips it in. Where is Useless? There he is. Have a go. Have a go. Show us that you have a use. Look at his bold patch at 18. That's a depressing sight. Turnbull, oh my word. Maybe he can finish. Maybe he's just camera shy. Maybe I should just turn off my screen so you guys can't see what's happening. Actually, turning off my screen, like the software I use would still work. I could just turn off the source of the game with my capture software, I suppose, whenever Turnbull's through on goal. Maybe that would help with his confidence. He just doesn't like having cameras on him. Either way, 4-0. We beat them 8-1, I want to say, when we met them all those years ago and set a record. Could we break that record now? I'm maybe getting a tiny bit greedy dreaming of that, aren't I? Mateus Aurelio hasn't had the craziest game at right back, so let's bring in Lazarus for him. But a good little way to end the year. It makes me feel better. This is the kind of performance we saw against the likes of Bournemouth and against Tottenham. It's a shame that in the one match where we really needed to have this kind of performance against Crystal Palace, we just completely bottled it, really. Yeah, it's frustrating. Although Shvetsov, could you get on the end of it? Zarate goes all the way back to Davidson. Whenever it goes back to the keeper like that, I anticipate an absolute howler in the match engine by their keeper. It's fallen to Turnbull. He's on for the hat-trick. And that's more the Turnbull that I know. We have 5 minutes left in this game. I've got one last sub. You know what? Let's bring in Kevin Kaiser. And we'll bring him in for Jarno Leskinen. Just giving Kaiser game time at the defensive midfielder position that he's learning is definitely just going to help him out. You know, you can train a player to learn a position, but actually game time there makes a difference. In this kind of game where the match is kind of over, we can get away with it. And I think we're about to get a penalty given our way as well. It's Dylan Turnbull for the hat-trick. Liverpool are 3-1 up. We've scored and I couldn't see it. He's got his hat-trick. Let's just close all of this because, yeah, Liverpool are done. Liverpool have got third. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Dylan Turnbull for getting a hat-trick. I would rather the goals had been more spaced out than to all come in this one game here, but a good performance, I suppose, to end the season, even if it is just a little bit frustrating. I feel like we need to just find a little bit of consistency to our play. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Very pleased with the performance, though. I mean, you can't ever be not happy with a 5-0, can you? Let's be honest, even if it is in a game that actually the result doesn't make a world of difference. You can see here Chelsea drew on the last day of the season against Derby County. So it does mean that even if we had beaten Crystal Palace, it wouldn't have been enough to win the league anyway, so we don't have to regret it too much. Manchester United drew. Arsenal won 5-0 to ensure they kept clear of Manchester United. Tottenham in 7th, but look at the gap in points. I mean, you've kind of got the top 4 out on their lonesome. Small little group behind, and then at the bottom of the table, poor Aston Villa, finishing rock bottom. They had a tycoon takeover. They spent massive money. Samuel Gaultier, one of their key players, might now be available. Oh boy. Does he have a relegation release clause? He doesn't, but surely they're going to want to sell him with the amount of money he's on. Surely. Who else have Villa got? I should probably have a look through all the teams. They've got Gabriel Petit. Oh my word, he's good, isn't he? He's very good. Sorretta's new partner in crime. Maybe? I'm curious now. What kind of money do they want? They're relegated, so surely they're going to want him off their books. Apparently not. I feel like we could pluck their little team apart if we want. They've got some very, very good players, and somehow they've managed to get relegated, which in itself feels like a little bit of an achievement. They have an Italian forward who's 23 years old, who scored a hat-trick and has never played for Italy again. That feels a little bit cruel, doesn't it? Andre did pick up an injury. It's only a twisted knee. That is fine. Dylan Turnbull ends his goal-scoring drought by scoring a hat-trick, because of course he blooming does. We have secured a Champions League finish. Solskjaer has been sacked. Who are the favourites to take over? We're not there. That's upsetting, isn't it? Right, how much money are we going to have been set? We had 100 million in the bank, and I think our wage budget was 1.8 million was already set. I would like to believe that's going to have been up to £2 million wage budget. Transfer budget of 50 or 60 million is kind of what I would expect. Oh, this is always the most exciting bit of the year. I could just sit here all day. Keep the tension going. Why not? Let's have a look, shall we? Boom. It's a £60 million transfer budget. Our wage budget is really not that high. I was hoping it might be a little bit more than that. Can we ask? We can't ask for an increased wage budget, but we could ask for an increased transfer budget. I don't know if this ever makes a difference, but I sometimes do this where I lower the wage budget, then because I can't ask for an increased wage budget, but I can ask for an increased transfer budget. So I change the transfer budget as low as I can, then go and request more. I don't think this actually works. Maybe it does. They're due to reevaluate it shortly, but you've just reevaluated it today. Right, well, we'll go back to having it all in the transfer budget. We received £40 million for a fourth place finish. That's pretty nice, isn't it? The players get to share a little bit of that. But what a great way to end the season, to be honest. I mean, I know it's anticlimactic, the fact we couldn't take it all the way down to the wire. Ultimately, we surpassed my wildest expectations this year. I kind of said at the end of last year, if we could get another top half finish and push for European qualification whilst being competitive in Europe, I would be happy. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed with how we did in cup competitions in general, just both domestically and in Europe. I wanted to go beyond the quarterfinals against Villarreal. We just didn't really turn up, but I think we more than made up for it by actually getting a Champions League spot this year. It's going to be a big step up. The Champions League compared to the Europa League is a big, big difference. This doesn't work as a headline, but Mampala has held Andrew Eric's performance against Norwich. I mean, Andy Eric, he's got to be up there for a contender for signing of the season, right? 7 goals, 3 assists, 4 player of the matches. He has proven this season that centre attacking mids can be good in Football Manager, and actually GCL was just useless. That's what we've learned. It's a record high for us. Let's have a look, shall we, at the overall best 11. What an 11 this is. You can see here Turnbull and Shvetsov now the starting strikers. You can see Marlon Ox, Andre and Lazarus, the players inducted in. Lazarus at right back. Andre has gone alongside another Andre, which is a nice sight to see. So it's the Andres in the centre of the midfield with Andre Dizel and Andre alongside one another. And also Ox, who I guess is on the bench. Let's just have a look here. This is our overall best 11. Are there any players who aren't here who should be here? You guys can let me know. I love the fact that there's still players like Henrique and Wender still a right mid. His contract's actually up at the end of next year, and I do kind of need to make a decision as to whether or not I want to keep the museum going. Of course, we have a museum. It's where we keep all of our older players. There are players like Mannion and Leighton Stewart whose contracts are expiring and they just don't want to sign new deals, so I'm probably just going to have to let them go. It makes me a little bit sad to see Leighton Stewart leave, but ultimately we've kind of held back his career by not letting him have a second half to his career. What a crazy player he was for us though back in the day. But I do feel like just with how bloated our under-23s is getting, we might want to reevaluate things. If we just look at things here, you can see we've only got a handful of players with contracts expiring at the end of this year. By the way, I signed this guy. He's not very good, but he plays for Madagascar's national team. He generated as a free agent, so I thought we'd take a punt on him. It wasn't worth taking a punt on him. But we have a Madagascan region. Is it Madagascan? If you're from Madagascar? Nationality? Malagasy. There you go. I mean, that sounds like me after a Vindaloo, really. But I signed him because of his nationality, and he's not very good. But he's part of the family now. But you can see we have got a load of players with contracts expiring in a year, which is a little bit concerning. I think some of these do have optional extensions that we are going to be able to trigger. Players like Graham Blanford, who I think is the hot prospect of our academy right now, had a tremendous year on loan at Crewe, who did great as our affiliates in terms of developing some of our players. But you can see here, in amongst some of these really good youngsters, there are a fair few players here who I'm probably just going to release and let their contracts run out because they're just not good enough. And we do need to trim down the fat, so to say, of our under-23s because, well, obviously as part of our ongoing efforts to generate a form of income, because we do have such lower attendances, we do have to try and develop players in our academy and sell them on. But as part of that, I do feel like it would be probably worth just getting rid of all the sentimental players, as much as that might pain me to say, just for the sake of organisation, if nothing else. Anyway, you can see here, end of season awards. Young player this season has gone to Leskinen. I mean, that is hard to argue against, isn't it? Andy Eric's goal against Liverpool, the one in the live com, the one where Shvetsov had a howler, has won goal of the season. Interestingly enough, Palazzolo has won signing of the season ahead of Andy Eric. I mean, that to me feels a little controversial. I guess Palazzolo came in at the start of the year, so with that in mind, you'd say he did better. He did make more appearances on the whole, although a lot of those were on off the bench. I mean, the average ratings are very swung one way. I am going to disagree with the signing of the season. I think Andy Eric was the better signing. You can see Leskinen ran away with player of the season, 60%. What a tremendous turnout for him. Anyway, end of season review. Scarce few pundits would have been brave enough to pluck Towlaw from mid-table obscurity, to mark them out for bigger and better things, but the Lawyers did exactly that, surpassing everyone as they broke free from the pack and secured continental qualification. You can see here we had a tremendous run of form between April and May that saw us rise to second, and then we finished fourth. Let's not think about that too much. Match of the season was a 4-3 win against Everton. Moment to forget. Yeah, I do wish I could forget that. We lost against Burnley, who were bottom of the league, 4-1. We had the highest average attendance by percentage. We also had the lowest average attendance by actual number. We used the second most amount of players in the league, which is good. Rotating things around, that was a big challenge this year, but we made a lot of rotation, and it didn't really hurt our overall league performance because our squad depth is pretty good, with the exception of the left-back position, which I do want to address first and foremost. You can see here the side of 2025. Where are they now? I mean, you guys can have a look, but some familiar faces there, it would be fair to say. Board expectations. Now, this is going to be interesting. So they want qualification for the Europa Conference, and they want us to reach the Champions League first knockout round. That's going to be a bit difficult, isn't it? Don't sign players over 30 is required. Play attacking football, play entertaining football, play high-tempo football. Make the most of set pieces. I mean, a lot of this is what we're already doing, so I'm not too overly concerned by that. Minimum of 2-year contracts for first-team players, that's fine. You can see longer-term kind of expectations. They want Europa League qualification next year, which would be the year after next, which I believe is a top 6 finish. Next year they want what I believe is a top 7 finish with Europa Conference League. And then they want us to become recognised as the best of the rest. And in 2036-37, that's not that far away, is it? They want us to challenge for the Premier League. Well, that's lofty. I can't lower it. I kind of want to get rid of that. That feels like they're setting a bit of pressure on us. Well, okay. Well, I guess we have a young squad, so arguably that should be where we're heading. But that does scare me a little bit, that expectation. Worth just having a quick look at the dynamics, although things haven't changed a great deal over the course of this year. Shvetsov and Morrigan, top of the pack, alongside Lazarus, who I do anticipate will drop down, just given the fact he's not featuring as regularly in the first team. That said, as far as kind of depth squad players go, he's a very, very good kind of James Milner-esque player. The kind of player who is just great to have as a backup because he can play so many positions so well. Elsewhere, plenty of familiar names here. And of course, lots of the new additions this year and a lot of the younger players. Not so influential just yet, although I anticipate as they get older and a new generation of youngsters come through, that will change. We now have a chance to tell the players what we expect going into next year. I'm going to tell the players that I think we can qualify for the Europa League. which is a top 6 finish, and they all absolutely love me, you lovely, lovely gentlemen. I'll be honest, my actual expectation next year is Champions League football again. I think once you've got a taste for it, you want to keep it going. But that is not going to be easy. I mean, we got a bit fortunate with the way in which Manchester United struggled towards the tail end of the year. Anyway, Maticevic apparently has been showing fantastic improvement in training. I mean, look at him. As a support player, which is what we actually play, his flair isn't made actual use of, so there is maybe an argument to say to play with attack. But that would really compromise our overall shape. Definitely like playing with the two Mazzalas though. It's something that I need to experiment with a little bit more. I noticed that our centre midfielders looked a little compact, I suppose. So I might look at ways in which we could defend a little wider. Just generally speaking though, in Football Manager this year, I do like to defend more narrowly. I feel like defensive width on narrow, just generally speaking, is just stronger. So it's kind of what my, I guess, personal preference is. Anyway, I'm going to hit continue once more here because there's often new stuff that comes in. You can see here, new youth and training facilities are happening. They are going to be done in 6 months' time. £10 million. It's getting a bit more expensive to upgrade stuff now. Our youth category rating has been raised from Category 2 to Category 1. Category 1 is the highest it can be. So that's good. It doesn't seem like that long ago that we were going from Category 4 to Category 5. Dylan Turnbull wants a new contract. Dylan, a new contract's not on the cards for you right now. Look at that. I will say one thing that really goes in my favour is the fact that I am friends with a lot of our players, by which I mean I'm in their preferred personnel, and part of their favourite club. Part of their favourite club. But also, we just have a good relationship. I feel like that's one thing that people don't realise gets so much easier the longer a save game goes on. As you get more influence in the dressing room and have a stronger relationship with players, when they do come to you asking for new contracts and stuff, it's a little easier just to kind of, I suppose, shut them up and just tell them, hey, you don't need one right now. And more often than not, they do actually listen to you, which is kind of nice. Anyway, I've just noticed here that our pros and cons are cut off. It's annoying me. Get rid of the scrolly bar, Jack. Resize your window. Oh, he's broken my skin. I think Turnbull is the first player ever to break my skin where the pros icons don't all fit in one bit. That's upsetting, isn't it? That has upset me now. What's that for? Off the ball movement. It's gone up to 18. He's a little fiend off the ball. What's his negatives? He wants to move to a bigger club. Come on. We are going to rise through the ranks here at Towlaw. I'm going to make you who you are, Turnbull. I mean, I've already made him who he is. Let's be honest. He's nothing without me. Wouldn't be capped for England. Wouldn't be playing regularly in the Premier League. He'd be stuck playing for Durham's team in the 10th tier if we hadn't plucked him as a child from their academy. Anyway, that is officially the season over. I guess we are not going to have any kind of inbox item about a new stadium, which I'll be honest was kind of secretly what I was hoping for. In terms of for next season, where we need to address things, I think at this point I'm pretty settled with the tactical system. I do also really like our overall squad balance. It's difficult to know where I want to add new players in because there's certain players who have been out on loan this year who I probably need to bring back and play regularly. I suppose like Claudio Cancina here, who looks like one of the best 18-year-olds in the world. Now, the big issue is that he is naturally a left midfielder. I would probably need to train him to play striker, which is fine, but if I'm training him to play striker, he's probably only going to be fifth choice striker behind the likes of Charlie Brown and Palazzolo, because players like Charlie Brown are kind of important as English players. So maybe he has to go out on loan again. But there's players like this guy who I want to bring in. So whilst it might seem like, oh, maybe you should get a new fifth choice striker, I kind of already have the players for certain positions sorted. The areas of the pitch where I don't have the position sorted really is left back. If we just look in our under 23s at defenders on the left side, which we can just do here, we have got some pretty good players. Markowski, he's been on loan at Derby County in the Premier League this year. He's played 36 Premier League games, has played super regular football. I think this guy could be a really good backup centre-back for us next year. I know he lacks a little bit the heading, but I feel like as far as centre-backs go, he is very, very good. His physicals are so well-rounded, there is part of me that is half tempted to train him to play complete wing-back. I just feel like with poor crossing, with poor dribbling, his flair's not fantastic. His technique probably needs to be a little bit better. I feel like his future is as a centre-back, so with that in mind, he could definitely come back into the team. But yeah, left-backs in general, we are struggling. Of course, we have Rossano Cini, who could play left-back. he's another player who's more than adequate as a backup, but also the kind of player who, after a reasonable spell on loan in Serie A, I would almost certainly be half tempted to try and get £30 million for if we can. When you consider that we saw Maggi in January for 20 million, I feel like Rossano Cini is probably worth at least 50% more on top of that price that we got for Maggi. There is going to be, I think, a little bit of that throughout this year. In terms of goalkeepers, we actually have a load of goalkeepers who are quite good. We have players like Glamini who are very, very good. In terms of signings that we're making, there is a decent number of goalkeepers in our ranks here. We've got players like Carlson, who I think could be one for the future. A player who I made a signing of very recently is actually this guy, Tetsuya Hashiguchi, who is the Japanese national team goalkeeper. He is only 19 years old. I realise these colours are really horrible to actually read the stats of, but ultimately he would probably be a pretty good backup keeper this year. We only had 2 first-choice keepers this season. Dean Henderson isn't really a player I want to rely on too frequently, but because he's homegrown in nation, he obviously helps make up that quota that we need to hit for various competitions. But I feel like left back is the big area of concern. We've got some pretty nice money to spend. In terms of the under-23s, there are certainly players who we will look to sell on for some money, I imagine. I talked about Cini. GCL, I would love to try and get some really good money for. Yes, he was good for us and he's had a very good loan spell at Porto, but ultimately I don't see him having a long-term future in the club, especially with how well Andy Eric's done. His loan spell on Porto did exactly what we wanted it to do. It got him in the shop window. He scored 8 goals in 8 league games, which is great. We've also got players like Roberto Gonzalez, who we had on loan at Middlesbrough this year, a player who we picked up for £5 million from Levante. He's had a few good loan spells, had a good spell in the Championship. He's now valued at 13.25 million. There is a lot of money to be made here, and we are now getting to the point where, you've seen, I sign a lot of youngsters kind of who will join us when they're 18, but we're now at a point where, because I've been doing that for 4 or 5 seasons, there are players that we did that with 4 or 5 seasons ago who I'm now able to make a judgment call, and the reality is many of them won't be good enough for the first team. However, we can more than make up for the money we spent on them just by selling them on. You know, a player like Eric we actually picked up for a free transfer. He's had a few loan spells, Eric. He was a player who I thought at one point was destined to be in our first team, but you can see, just looking at his numbers, he's never really shone. If we could get £10 million for him, it would be pretty good business at the end of the day. And I feel like that's kind of the mindset we are going to go into in January. I know it's not in January, in the summer. I know it's worth mentioning Pizarro, who, of course, we accidentally paid £60,000 a week for. I am very concerned about this guy. He has not developed. He did not get a work permit when I recently appealed for it. Valued at £8 million, we spent £5 million on him. I would like to believe, given the fact he is 19, he's still pretty young, we could potentially sell him on and get some really, really good money for him, depending on what kind of teams are interested. He's probably top of my list of players that I may well need to sell because his wages just don't really justify themselves. It is going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, with us now entering into Champions League football on the regular. The kind of wages that we are offering players is very, very low for where we are competing right now. Now, the good news is many of these players are on super long-term deals. In fact, you can see all the way from Morrigan downwards, these players are all on contracts which have another 4 years on top of them. So in our starting 11, there are only 2 players who aren't there. One of them is Leskinen, to be fair. So maybe I should be looking at a new Leskinen contract. But just in general, we've got the core of our squad locked into long contracts. So whilst it is a little bit of a concern, the wages, it's a problem that we can slowly build up towards, I feel like, rather than something we need to immediately be worrying about right here and now. But anyway, I think a very, very good season. I think for me, in terms of most improved player, it would go to Soretta. I feel like that's a bit of a no-brainer. He's been absolutely incredible this year. Signing of the year for me, I think, would go to Andy Eric. Player of the year, I think, has to go to Leskinen. If I was going to give it a disappointment of the year award, I would probably give it to Ox. I feel like he let us down in some really, really big games that ultimately cost us, despite a strong end to the year. He wasn't superb, although Mateus Aurelio, I guess you could throw into a similar bracket. I do feel like he was much better defensively, and in the Europa League he really did shine. I feel like he's got a lot in his tank to give us, and I'm excited to see what the 22-year-old can do, to be honest, because I feel like he just had a slow first season, but give him time, give him a bit of confidence. He will really come out of his shell and continue to perform. McCassie as well, worth a mention for most improved player despite his injury right at the end. Still don't know where I'm going to play McCassie, but that's a problem for future Jack to worry about. I will now acknowledge the fact that I will probably be saying that in 10 years' time when he's 30 years old. That is a problem for me to worry about in the future. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up everything here for season number 14 here at Town Town. Again, thank you so much for your support. I'm sorry that we couldn't deliver the goods in terms of a good and proper title fight down to the final game of the year, but ultimately top 4, a very, very good finish. We will look to build off that. I'm sure it's going to be a busy summer. Tomorrow, as I already mentioned, we will have more World Cup qualifying action coming your way. And, well, I will be seeing you guys for the start of Season 15 very, very soon. If you've enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.